to officially open April 8th, 2025, Littleton Conservation Commission. Unique evening for us because some are hybrid. Well, this is hybrid, so some of us are online and some are in person. So please bear with us as we try and navigate this. So let's go ahead and we will start with our proposed agenda. We do not have minutes at this time, so I'd like to go ahead and start with the land use permit request, Long Lake Story Walk. Tim?
I'm Melinda Herbaus, trustee at the Littleton Conservation Trust. We're looking for permission to do a story walk at Long Lake Park, starting at Colonial Drive. Now Littleton Conservation Trust works with the Children's Library to do these. And every year we do maybe one, maybe two of these. But what we try to do is go to different conservation areas in town to hopefully introduce the younger set to the joys of walking through our forests. So the only change was that we were planning to do it on April vacation week, but then we heard that apparently there's a book walk occurring at Cloverdale that week. And we just thought, well, we don't need two in town at the same time. So we'd like to change the date to June 20th to June 27th.
Okay, commissioners, any comments or concerns? I think it's great that we're able to offer both.
Yeah, I think the idea is great. My only concern would be, I know the current route has it going clockwise from Colonial Drive down to the shore and kind of up and around.
Yeah.
The only concern, oh, can you guys hear me? I feel like my audio is a little crazy tonight.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, perfect. So my only concern would be Colonial Drive, the paper road portion that goes into the park tends to be very rutted and muddy that time of year. So I don't know if the course would be better off maybe going counterclockwise, like off and to the right up the Toroni Loop Trail, and then kind of circling back the other way.
That's a good suggestion. I do know that it gets rough around there. I do think that doing it in June will probably help with that, because by that time it's often getting a little drier. But when we see the conditions, we'll make the decision whether we should go right. I mean, unfortunately, the really nice little loop that is off of the red loop I went through there and it's so brush filled and probably tick filled that I don't think anybody would want to do it. So we're probably going to end up doing an out and back either way. Because the little kids, it's kind of a trek for them all the way around the loop,
Absolutely. And hopefully that time of year.
We've done out and back at Yap, just depending on the area,
Okay, so this sounds like just a date change. Anyone else have any questions? I don't think we need a vote for this. We just need to just acknowledge that it seems fine. Commissioners?
That seems fine.
Sounds great.
Yeah, fine by me.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Good luck. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. The next land use permit request, Yap invasive species stockpile burn.
Hello, Rick Finley, a steward of the Yap property, and one that's been involved in cleaning up the invasives on that property. Danielle couldn't be here, so I'm just here to answer any questions you might have. We are actually just burning brush that's trying to clear the walls, keep them cleared so we can mow the invasives up to the walls. I don't think we're going to be actually burning invasive species the way it's worded, but.
Okay. So Danielle is the applicant for this, and Rick has been working with her and speaking on her behalf. I don't know what the commission's thoughts are without actually speaking with the applicant, but I think this conversation is certainly helpful to guide Rick in any certain direction. I know we've had a little bit of conversation about burning on different properties. So if commissioners want to offer any insight, that would be great.
One thing we talked about last time was, will they be using some kind of burning barrel or something rather than just I'll say uncontrolled, even though I realize it'll be controlled, burn. That certainly was one of my concerns anyway.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I think the barrel would be too small. They're hoping to use a burn pile that was used by Peter Yap on the property right in the middle of this parcel. And we've been mowing to control invasives around that burn pile. So it's basically lawn around it, and it would be very much under control. And there'd be hoses that would be coming from the houses to do it. So we're using an old burn pile that's there and basically cleaning that up in the process of doing this.
Thank you. Other questions for Rick?
You have a time frame in mind yet, Rick? Is it as soon as you can at this point?
As soon as, yeah, we've got to do it this month, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. The burn permits expire after April, right? So, and especially since it's been wet, I feel like now is as good of time as any to get this going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would support this, Sarah.
Yeah, I was in the same position last week. I don't really remember why it carried through this week. Do you remember, Tim, what the concerns were?
We didn't have an answer on the barrel versus if it was
Okay.
open or not, and I thought there was one more.
Well, I think we had hoped to meet with the applicant, but then the assumption is made that the fire department will be involved in this process. Correct, Rick?
Who was that going to be involved?
The fire department.
Yeah, I've actually-
Mhm.
I've actually been in contact with Steele about this, and he'll waive the fee for this since it's on town property.
Okay.
Go find as much as you can, then pull it in.
All right, so with, I think where this is an exception where it is on town property and we do have other entities involved, such as the fire department, I would like to have a formal motion and vote.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the land use permit for the EAP invasive species stockpile burn to take place this month.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead, and because we are hybrid, we do need to have a vote and everybody has to have their camera on.
Roll call vote.
Andrew, do you want to go ahead and do it?
Certainly. All right. Ed,
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
and Kyle.
I'll ask you bye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good luck, Rick. If you could just let us know when you're going to do that, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Rick. Good luck.
Sure. Thank
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, next is discussion Forge Pond Lake Management, DEP number 204-0872, herbicide use.
Hi, my name is David Barr. I'm a member of the Littleton Clean Lakes Committee, member of the Westford Health Lakes and Ponds Collaborative, and member of the Friends of Forge Pond. How much would you like me to say about this?
Well, I think if you can give a brief overview and then we can bring
Okay.
forth questions, Dave.
All right. So over the last several years, the plant growth in Lake Mattawanakie has increased significantly. Many longtime residents there have said that the amount of plant growth, invasive and native plants both, are more extensive than they've seen at any time in their lifetimes. We have the allowed processes we have for dealing with the invasive and nuisance plants are drawdowns and eco-harvesting, which is physical harvesting of the plants with collection. Our our recent experience with those is that the drawdowns are not as effective as they have been in the past because the winters are warmer. With the warmer winters, it's hard to get the lake level down because it's raining rather than snowing. We don't get ice covers on the lake nearly as much. And we don't get the below freezing temperatures for which we need for 2 weeks in order for the drawdowns to be successful. So with the warmer weather, those are not as fruitful as they have been. This past winter was more like normal, and we'll have to wait and see what that does, but we won't know until the summer. The echo harvesting, we've tried for the last 2 years. In both cases, we've been limited in how much we can do for different reasons in the 2 different years. And because of permitting timing, the treatments have been done in late August, which is not a good time to do it. We would like to be doing it. We had planned to do a large treatment this coming summer, earlier in the summer, but because the DEP has ruled that now harvesting of plants is considered by them to be dredging, we need to get a large dredging permit before we can do that. And Clean Lakes Committee started to work on that last fall, but we were told we couldn't actually start on it until this spring. And so we are not going to be able to get that done in time to do echo harvesting this summer. So we're looking to add additional methods to deal with the invasive plants and the increased growth of native plants also. And we're asking to be able to use herbicides and algicides, as well as diver-assisted suction harvesting, which is something that's already been formally approved in the last amendment to our order of conditions, but we have a requirement that if we're actually going to plan to use it, we need to come back and ask for specific approval. What we're asking for today is there's a general condition 13 of the order of conditions says that the activities have to conform to the notices of intent and the orders of conditions. General condition 14 says that if something other than those is going to be done, we need to come to get guidance from the commission on whether it's acceptable to amend the existing orders of conditions or whether it's something that needs a new notice of intent with a separate order of conditions. The same issue was on the table when we amended the drawdown orders of conditions to include the plant harvesting. And the reason that was the rationale that was understood for amending rather than creating a new notice of intent is that a new notice of intent would require a separate set of orders of conditions and separate tracking, separate expiration dates, separate monitoring. And the idea was that we'd like to have all of these processes in a single lake management set of order of conditions, that all of the things that are being done to try to manage the ecology of the lake are in a single order of conditions where they can be treated holistically. So we're looking for that guidance tonight as to whether it's okay to amend the existing order of conditions or not. We'll be planning to come at your next meeting to present the actual discussion about getting approval for doing these additional processes, and we'll be submitting to Tim all of the paperwork and such, and sending out the abutter notices tomorrow, once we know what your decision is.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, thoughts on this and questions for either Tim or Dave?
Hey, Dave, how are you?
I don't like,
You know, as long as I've been involved with the lake, we've argued, you know, stringent or stridently against using herbicides. So I'm surprised on the one hand, but wondering what the strategy for that would be.
Michael, you cut out a little bit at the end.
Everybody cut out there for a minute.
so you're wondering why
Yeah,
we're
so-
asking for it when, in the past, we've been reluctant to do it.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, well, couple of reasons. I mean, we've had discussions with lake managers, people that are certified lake managers, about all the different options for trying to deal with lake eutrophication. And are we still on?
Yep.
Okay, and there are no silver bullets. All of the processes that are available to us have pros and cons, and none of them are perfect. Because we have no way of dealing with anything this next season, as it stands now, we would like to try something. The herbicides are, as you know, recognized by the Department of Environmental Protection and the Department of Conservation and Recreation as being valid methods for dealing with invasive plants and nuisance plants in aquatic settings. You're right, we have we've been reluctant to use them in the past because of the long-term, really because of the long-term effects. Talking with our lake manager consultants, we've been told that yes, for sure, long-term continual using of them for decades causes issues, and but if you using them in the moment, they work. Our thought is to try a herbicide treatment this summer and see what that does to the plants in the Littleton part of the lake, and compare that with, you know, how things stand on the westward side of the lake. Next year, we have significant funding for, assuming that it gets approved at town meeting, for eco harvesting on the Littleton side of the lake. And the thought is to see what using herbicides one year and then proceeding with eco harvesting following that. The eco harvesting may be more successful because it has less plant material that it has to deal with. So it's an experiment. We acknowledge the issues with using herbicides in our full request that we'll be submitting tomorrow. But it's
Okay, so let's carry on. Other questions for Dave? Commissioners?
So I guess so it sounds like you're going to present the location of where, like, this isn't just going to be widespread across lake. Are you using targeted areas, the known hotspots, or?
we would be doing plant surveys ahead of the treatments, and consulting with based on where the most need is and where it would be effective to use them. Consulting with vendors and ideally, if we can, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and our lake consultants.
Yeah, and that would be the herbicide you plan on using. I assume it's coming from one of their ones that they spoke of, and I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but
in our full request, we're requesting only the use of, obviously, only the ones that are approved by DEP for use in Massachusetts for aquatic plants, and not all of those. We're eliminating some of those, so we're not asking for all of them, but that's, yeah, discussed in the full request.
Is it the same for the suction harvesting? That's gonna, I mean, assume that's really only efficient for.
Suction harvesting is much more expensive than the other approaches, but at the same time, it's can be very focused, and you can get the whole plant out, and you can be selective about taking only, for instance, invasive plants and the low level, the plants, the native plants that are only growing up a foot, you can leave those in place.
So that would be a targeted approach where you have
it's
large volume.
So the process in the moment is very precise and targeted. The area in which it would be deployed would be a limited area, either hotspots or places that could benefit from the high intensity, and that where it's feasible to be using something that's more expensive per acre.
And you're looking to do both of those this summer?
We can't do the herbicide. We can't do the suction harvesting this summer because the DEP ruled that they consider that to be plant harvesting, which also is they're currently viewing as dredging. So we have to wait until we have a dredging permit to do that. We're including it in this request because we would like to be doing it as soon as we can. We'd like the ability to do it as soon as we can. And since we're going through the whole process of amending or presumably amending the order of conditions, it makes sense to make that request now rather than coming back later and doing the process again.
Let's kind of circle back to where we were and what's on the table here. So we're looking for, and Tim, correct me, so we're looking for an amendment or also trying a new filing.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. I personally don't like the idea of trying something for herbicides. I think it has to be much more clinically looked at. Disappointing you can't do some of the other things that you'd like to do, but I'm very fearful of just what seems a little haphazard for the herbicides, but I leave that up to the rest of the commissioners with your thoughts.
With the herbicides, is there any, or what is the impact on the surrounding, the animals basically is what I'm thinking.
They're safe. There is no issue with them. I will say that the other lakes in town have received approvals to use herbicides.
So Ed, there's going to be a natural heritage component to this.
We have already submitted the request to Natural Heritage.
And were you specific what herbicides you were going to use? And in what area they were going to be applied?
They're listed in the full request. They're only herbicides that are approved for use on aquatic plants in Massachusetts, and not even all of those.
Okay. And the application areas, were those listed?
They would be determined on a seasonal basis based on plant surveys and where it's needed, where it would be beneficial.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
So it sounds like that all of those questions, those would be answered at our next meeting, right? So I think we're going too far into this. I think it's do they need to file a new NOI or is it an amended NOI or order of conditions, right? And then at the next meeting, we would hear any of those details, answered questions.
I was just curious.
I'm on
what
board
had
with
been
amending
submitted.
the order of conditions. As for the paperwork side, I feel like we've had issues with multiple order of conditions for this type of stuff, and they get lost and confused. Again, I'm not necessarily saying I'm in favor or not in favor right now, but I think the easiest paperwork trail is an amended order of conditions.
Okay, so we need someone to make a motion for either of these options, and then we can certainly take a vote on that. Other commissioners like to be heard?
Can you guys hear me? My mic's a little funky here.
Yep, go ahead, Andrew.
Perfect. So I feel like an amended order of conditions would probably be the best route as well. So I'll make a motion if everyone would like. I'll make a motion that the commission issue an amended order of conditions for the Forge Pond Lake Management project, the DP file number 204-872, to include, how did we want to word this? I'm sorry.
Herbicides, algicides, and suction harvesting.
Herbicides, algicides, and suction harvesting.
Wait, so the amended one already includes suction harvesting, right?
Uh,
You're just looking to implement it.
yes, right.
Right. So I think it's just to amend to include the use of the herbicides and algicides,
And then get,
and then approval to actually
Right,
implement
right.
one of the uses. But I don't know. I'm a little confused on. It doesn't matter. You can do all of it.
I mean, yeah, and that can get discussed
Yeah.
at the next meeting too, because this is, just saying that it should be refiled as a request to amend.
Okay, so you have a motion on the floor.
I'll second Andrew's motion.
All right, roll call votes. Ed,
Ed votes aye.
Michael,
I honestly don't know.
And we'll come back to you.
welcome back to you. Sarah,
Sarah Seward, nay.
Carl,
Carl Malberg, nay.
and Kyle,
Maxwell, bye.
and myself, I. So that is, let's see.
Michael, do you want to abstain or
Oh, yes, Michael.
yes or
Are
no?
are we issuing it for just blanket? It's okay. Is that what the motion is?
All we're letting them do is present an amended order of conditions to us. We haven't made a decision on them actually using herbicides or algicides at all yet.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Then I'll say aye.
Okay. So that'll be, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's see here. I'm sorry, Kyle. Were you an I? I've lost track.
Yep.
Okay, so that's 4 ayes and 2 nays.
Thank you for coming in, Dave.
thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, next, we're going to go ahead and move on to our 7:45 because it's now 8 o'clock. Public hearing notice of intent, 73 Hartwell Ave, parcel R, 17-5-7, construction of a single-family home. Who would like to speak to this?
I'm promoting Phil right now.
What engineer does Phil have an engineer?
Yeah, does it say on the plan? Should be the. Oh, by 7.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Phil. If you want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
I'm gonna grab it.
I have it in my bag.
I bought this lot at 73 Hartwell. I don't have an engineer. I talked to Ted Doucette to engage him, but nothing's changed. It's just everything's expired, did the extensions, and now everything's expired, so I'm just trying to renew everything.
Okay, so Tim, it might be best if you just bring everybody up to speed where we are with this.
Yep. So this property got an order of conditions back in, I believe it was 2018. There was an appeal made on the order of conditions that the information changed during the hearing process, and that it went from being an isolated land subject to flooding to a bordering vegetated wetland. The appeal went to DEP. DEP went out, did a site walk, confirmed it is a bordering vegetated wetland, and issued a superseding order of conditions. The order of conditions that we issued expired, I believe it was in February of 2020, right before the COVID tolling period. So it didn't get that extension. The superseding order got the COVID tolling extension, and then also the most recent one. After discussions with Phil and with DEP, Phil decided it would probably be best, instead of requesting to extend the superseding and then have to refile with us for a brand new order, he's just going to be requesting a new order encompassing all of it, all the state and the local.
Okay, thank you for that. So let's also confirm the last time that the wetlands line was verified as well.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have that info.
Okay. Tim, do you happen to have that?
If it hasn't changed since Phil, has there been one done since the order was issued back in 2018?
No, I haven't done anything. So when I bought, like I said, when I bought it, everything was already done and approved. So I haven't done anything since, besides do a Board of Health extension for the one time, for that one extra year.
Okay. So we can assume it's at least 7 years old about. I can go back and look. It might be on the
That's what
plan.
you told us in your summary was
Okay.
plan is 7 years old.
Yeah, so historically, something that's that old, the commission would request reflagging. Am I correct with that, commissioners?
Yeah, or at least checking. The flags are probably not there anymore. If someone could, put them back in according to a survey, that would be fine. We could check them again.
Yep. So, Phil, if they could get reflagged, I'm assuming that was on the plan in terms of their location.
Yep,
Okay.
I can take care of that.
Okay, commissioners, questions? So I think once that's done, and Phil, we have some new commissioners since that time. When you have those up to plan a site walk as well. Commissioners, what would you like? So we can do this kind of all at once. Do you want the center of the driveway and corners of the house, or do we have a plan to see?
Yes,
I'm sharing the plan right now. Can you see it?
yep.
Sarah, I was also asked if you could turn on your light.
Turn on my light.
You're,
You
Yeah.
have a light in the room.
Yep,
you're right
I
now.
can. Yep. For sure. Give me a second. Yep, go ahead, carry on.
Could I ask, do I read this plan correctly in that what I'm assuming on the left is the septic is inside of what looks like the 100, and part of the house is also, or at least the garage it looks like? Do I read it correctly?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So that means the 50, I don't see where the 50 is.
50 is the erosion control line as well.
It starts right here, Ed, on this dash line and runs.
Okay. Oh, I see it now. Yep, it kind of, for a point, follows the stone wall a bit, doesn't it?
I believe all the work proposed on this plan was proposed outside of the 50-foot.
Mhm.
Okay, so just getting back, is there anything in particular that we would like to have flagged or marked, staked?
I think you had suggested, Sarah, the corners of the house, corners of the driveway would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do like center line of driveway if you want. That house, that's a generic box that they put in. There's no house plans yet. I'm just trying to get everything reapproved. So that it would fall within that footprint, but it wouldn't be any wider. But I
Okay.
can lay out what's there if you want that for that house footprint.
That would be great. And then if you want to circle back with Tim, when you have that done, so that we can schedule a site walk. And then with your permission, we would carry this on to the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll get that laid out and I'll let Tim know, and then he can schedule a site walk.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay, we're gonna go, it is, the next is at 8 o'clock, so we're gonna go ahead with continued discussion for the enforcement order, 15 Powers Road, unpermitted grading and fill in the buffer zone. Who would like to speak to this? John, are you here?
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so John, if you can bring us up to date, it's been a while since we spoke, and this was kind of a date that we had planned to have a large update. And I see that Matt is here as well. Is he representing you again?
Yeah. So I guess Matt's just on as support, I believe. So if you have, so that's the updated plan. I had proposed to you guys putting it out in the front yard. I talked with Henry. Henry did not approve that. The next best I could do was get it outside the 50-foot buffer. But it's still in the driveway, so it'd be on the other side of the driveway. And the only difference that would be from the plan you're seeing is Henry requested 4 or 5 feet, whatever fire code is, off the house. But I could still keep that outside the 50-foot buffer.
So I see here it says temporary. So it's already been there quite some time. How long are you thinking it's going to be in place?
I was thinking like a year or so.
That's temporary.
Pretty temporary.
How long has it been? How many months has it been there?
Maybe just a couple.
As in 3?
I'm not sure exactly.
I got one.
Okay. All right, commissioners, questions for John and comments on this? I'd have to go back into the old minutes, what you were tasked with for.
The plan was to have it moved by April 1st. But Henry did not approve of the location I was going to move it. So, and this is the earliest meeting since then.
Yeah, so Sarah, what had happened was John had gone and conferred with, I believe you talked to Tim, if I remember correctly, about getting on to the next meeting. And when I talked to John about it, John wanted to propose this alternative, which actually kind of makes sense as the location, to get it out of the 50-foot zone, but still be useful as part of his, he's using it as storage for part of his cleanup work. So,
all the cleanup already happened in the rear where they had that storage and there was a list that was supplied. So my understanding that today was going to be an update of where we are with some of the items that were in storage in addition to the trailer. Commissioners, your recollection, please.
And what you recall is same for me.
I'm looking at the minutes. I think all we discussed was making sure that that container was relocated.
I mean,
the only
I
thing
could
I remember,
do it. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, the only thing I remember was that by April 1st, we were going to have a timestamp photo showing that the shed was out. We had essentially come pretty close to an agreement on the overall cleanup narrative that I had written and submitted to you guys. And that, you know, you wanted the shed moved out of the 50-foot zone, actually wanted it originally moved out of the buffer zone. But then this
Matt, are
complication.
you talking about the shed or are you talking about the trailer?
It's
This shed right here.
container. It's a container.
It's a storage container,
Yeah,
actually.
container.
But we're all wrong.
I'm sorry, I keep calling it a shed. That's
It's
just my
okay.
terminology. I'm sorry, that's just my terminology. But we're supposed to take that container and have it out of the 100-foot zone in the front yard. Unfortunately, the building commissioner told John he couldn't leave it there. So he wanted to propose an alternative location on this storage trailer for you guys.
How much room is there between the 50 and the house, and how wide is the container?
I think it's 8 feet wide, and I'd have to measure between, but it's relative depending on where you go up against the house.
I asked because you said it would fit, but you then said there's a 5 foot, you have to be 5 feet off the house, I think you said?
Yeah, so depending on where exactly that 50-foot buffer is, I plan on putting the back corner of it there. So if it's, 2 feet further up the driveway to gain me the lineal feet off the house, it's relative. I'm trying to reiterate, just outside the 50 at the bottom of the driveway. And I could also touch on the items behind the shed on the list is the items that I own. That's my stuff that I'm keeping. I consolidated and cleaned things up, organized. It's not kind of strewn out all over the place or inside the 50. That's the list of things that are staying.
Okay, and that's outside the 50. So commissioners, thoughts here? You may recall when this first started, when you look at the before and afters, what's been added in the 100, first 100.
So John, what's gonna be behind the shed now, where it says storage, C list?
The stuff that's on the list. So mostly some kids' toys, a couple bins with some stuff that's covered.
That's not, none of it's in the 50, correct?
Yes.
Matt, can you confirm that as well?
It's on the plan. You can see.
According to the plan.
I don't believe this plan is to scale, is it?
We've gone over
He has
this.
another plan that was submitted that this is a rendering to show where the storage bin, I keep wanting to call it a shed, so forgive me, is going to be stored. There is a scale plan that does show material being out of the 50 feet. He's still got material in the buffer zone that he's cleaning up. He's going to do some plantings in the buffer zone, but we're going to concentrate on getting the slope, the material that's over the slope in the 50 feet out, and then doing the restoration work that I had previously submitted to you guys, that I'll be working with him on getting. And I believe the condition you guys put on that one was he was to take up the material, get all that stuff out of the 50 foot, from the slope. And that, I believe it was Tim or a commissioner or both would then go out to the site to make sure they were satisfied before we started the coverings and the plantings. So.
Okay.
I guess I could expedite this by saying that with approval on the container placement, I'm not sure when the next meeting is, but I'd say within 2 weeks or so, or maybe 3 weeks, it's reasonable to have it moved over.
And where's the container right now? So you're talking about moving it over away from the house, or which direction towards the house?
Yeah, moving it to wherever we agree on, I guess, or whatever gets approved. I'm not sure.
Okay. Commissioners, thoughts on this? I feel like we have we've been dealing with a lot of encroachments for quite some time on this.
It's unfortunate that the container hasn't already been moved out of the 50.
I just didn't want to move it over to where I'm looking to put it right now and then have you guys say, oh no, and then be in the same spot but different and then be moving it somewhere else again. But there really isn't a better spot, like Matt said, between A, B, and C. This is
Okay.
Sure.
But had you, I think we come back to that a lot of these things that have been done probably wouldn't have been permitted, especially the fill within the 0 to 50. Commissioners, what would you like to do?
Just a couple. There's a little bit of melon.
Does the when does the full work start? The taking the cutting the hill where the driveway is and all of the plantings and all that. What is the plan for when that all starts? We're coming up on that, right? Because
yeah, I think we had agreed on once it was nice enough to do it. And now there's just I guess I'm not sure. Maybe I thought I was waiting on a green light from you guys. I'd be ready to start whenever.
Matt, do you want to address that? I was under the assumption that it was weather dependent, that we were going to be informed when the work was starting, that it's not up to us to tell you when to start it.
Well, we had targeted, if I remember correctly, it was the end of, I don't have the plan in front of me, but it was right around the end of April, weather dependent on whether or not we had like a really wet April, and it just was going to be counterproductive to start it at that point. But you figure an April, May time frame, again, dependent on when the spring rains kind of slow down.
Right.
That was when he was going to start. That was what we had basically spoken of at the meeting prior.
So my recollection for the meeting today was to recap that the trailer had been moved and just kind of an overview of when they were going to start on the other work that was going to be done.
Yeah, agreed. That was what the because you had specifically asked for a timestamp photo.
Okay.
And I couldn't produce that because of the complications we had, because we didn't anticipate the building commissioner saying no.
Okay.
Just wasn't a thing at the time.
Tim, how long ago did that conversation happen with Henry?
I believe it happened the day of the last meeting, which was too late to get it on the agenda.
Oh, I didn't find out until I talked to him after. I think he called me a day or two after and said
Oh no,
he heard about it and just was trying to nip it in the bud.
it wasn't the day of the last meeting that you were at, John. It was the day of the following meeting after. I think it was like March 18th.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a couple of weeks before your scheduled April 1st meeting, because I had checked in with John, and I was just reviewing the emails. John had responded to me on the 26th of March, letting me know what the problem was with the building commissioner, because I had asked him if he had everything moved, because I wanted to take the picture and submit it in time for the meeting. And that's when he had informed me that just recently he had spoken to the building commissioner, and that was a complication, and that we would come up with an alternative location for the April 8th meeting, because that's when I had found out just after that the meeting was rescheduled.
Okay.
I didn't know at that point.
Okay, commissioners, thoughts on this? We need to move on and give them some guidance whether the trailer stays or goes. I think it's that cut and dry.
if the trailer is staying, I would want a hard date when it's gone, and I'm not sure a year is
That's not temporary, right? Okay, commissioners, other thoughts?
Does Henry have guidance on temporary? What's considered temporary? I feel like that's not.
No, it's not. It's not allowed there.
Not allowed. Where?
No,
Where
no.
it is- where
I'm
it
just
is
saying.
right now.
I'm just saying definition wise. I know that he can't put it out in the front yard. I'm saying I don't feel comfortable being the one to determine what temporary is.
Well, the
it's
assessors
not-
would consider it's already been there a couple months, so I would think the assessors are going to consider it permanent.
That's what I'm asking. If they have guidelines on that, if there's somebody else in town that should say what temporary is.
I could ask Henry and we could kind of circle back on that. I'm just looking for approval on moving it.
Yeah, I mean, it has to get moved, right?
Yeah, I don't want the definition of temporary to push this off for another 2 weeks.
Well, John, the definition of temporary could be gone, not just moved, depending on what everyone agrees is the definition of temporary. Since it's been 3 months already, that's what I think the question that's being answered here.
I come back to the fact that this trailer was added without a discussion and we had already had the enforcement at that point, if I'm correct.
Yeah, a trailer got moved and the container got put in its place.
While we were under enforcement order.
Yes.
All right, commissioners, what would we like to do?
I'm not a complete ogre. I'm willing for the container to stay another month or two to give him time to, since he is going to be doing the cleanup and everything else. But in my opinion, by Memorial Day, it should be gone.
Would you like to make a motion for that?
I can try. I might get it wrong, so help me
Yeah, I
fix it.
think when you say stay, do you mean in its current position or outside of the 50?
No, in the new position, which is 5 feet off the house, but outside the 50.
Thank you.
I move that the container be moved outside the 50 to its allowed location to be there no longer than the end of May 2025.
And when would you want it moved by? That has to be in your...
And moved by our next meeting. He said it would take him 2 weeks, so I'm willing to give the 2 weeks.
So we have a motion that says within the next 2 weeks, the trailer can be moved to its temporary location until Memorial Day. That's what is on the table. And I'd like to second that.
Second.
Andrew?
Hey, roll call vote.
I'm sorry, say again?
Oh, Ed?
Ed Fultz, aye.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl?
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle?
Oh, Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Okay. So it's understood that it needs to be moved within the next 2 weeks. It's either moved to its location or it's moved off the property. Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead. It's 8:23. We're going to go to our 8:15 request for minor modification.
Thank you, guys.
Foster Street reconstruction DEP-204-0991 invasive species management and relocation of catch basins. Who would like to speak to this?
I'm going to promote Aaron here.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Who has their hand up?
That's Aaron. I'm promoting him right now.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Hi, good evening. I put my hand up there for a moment. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. If you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yes, good evening. My name is Aaron Keegan. I'm a professional engineer with Fuss and O'Neill, and I'm representing the town of Littleton for this project. And could I share my screen?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so we're here tonight to inquire with the commission about whether the two proposed project modifications can be considered minor and if they constitute the need for an amended order. And just to a very quick recap of the project, we are on Foster Street between Taylor Street and Balsam Lane. It's a approximately 0.7 mile linear transportation improvement. It includes in the addition of a 10-foot shared use path on one side of Foster Street, drainage improvements, improvements to the existing water main, and a realignment of Grimes Lane to for a more safe alignment near the railroad crossing at the commuter rail station. And the project started construction in fall of 2024 and is expected to be completed at the end of 2026. We have two minor changes that we'd like to talk to the board, commission about. The first is
Aaron, if I may interject. So right now what we're looking at, there you go. I wanted you to move the screen back to the actual map. You were on the order of conditions when you were speaking.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's back now. Okay.
Okay. Yes. So let me just. I guess, is everyone familiar with the project limits and the area that we're talking about? I guess this is maybe a better picture of the actual project limits. So the first minor change that we wanted to bring to the commission was that originally the project included clearing and grubbing of invasive species of plants within the project limits using mechanical means. And during one of the project walkthroughs with Mass DOT's landscaping section, I should add that Mass DOT is overseeing the construction. They're on site every day, and the project's being performed in accordance with MassDOT construction standards. They recommended that the project include treatment of invasive species within the defined project work limits. The previous scope of work already included a mapping of invasive species in an inventory. That has already been done. What was not included previously was the use of targeted herbicides with the mechanical extraction of the invasive species, and so that's the additional work that we are proposing. MassDOT defines a successful treatment of invasive species as an 85% reduction of coverage area within the defined work limits where the invasive species have been mapped. We included with this inquiry a plan from the subconsultant SWCA that showed their mapping of the invasive species. Let me pull it up really quickly. So they provided us with an inventory, colored, basically a marked up project plan, identifying the location and the species of the invasive plants. And the plan also includes what treatment types would be recommended for each type of plant and when the treatment would be provided. And for most, it is a combination of mechanical, and then this table describes the herbicide recommended type of herbicide and the type of application, the time of year when it would be recommended. And so this plan describes that the treatment would be conducted once a year until the project is completed, which would be at the end of 2026. It also includes a report where the subcontractor would go back out, re-inventory the invasive species, and document whether they've been curtailed by 85% at least, and they would submit that to MassDOT and the commission. So that's part one of the additional work requested. Part two has to do with the stormwater plan. Originally, we had 5 leaching catch basins in the project area. You can see from plan view. Here's a traditional deep sump catch basin inside the road. Those are staying. We had 5 areas where we had an additional leaching catch basin. It's basically a 4-foot by 6-foot tub, concrete tub buried in the ground. It's has holes in it, so it's pervious. And the idea was to use these to get some extra infiltration into the ground. As it turned out, the 5 locations where we had proposed these, the groundwater was about 3 to 5 feet below the surface, which it was too shallow. The depth of groundwater would need to be about 9.5 feet, for these structures to be feasible. And so we found out that we can't actually install these where we thought we could. And we found one new area where we can actually install a leaching catch basin that is located about 200 feet west of Balsam Lane on Foster Street on the east side of the road. That the groundwater here was about 9.5 feet at least, so we can do the infiltration there. We're disappointed. I mean, we tried to use one of MassDOT's kind of more recently recommended stormwater best management practices. We described in the NOI originally how we, as a limited project, redevelopment project, we were trying to meet the groundwater infiltration stormwater standard to the maximum extent practicable. It just, as it turns out, after we've done the groundwater test pits, it turns out that the maximum extent practical wasn't the extent that we originally thought. I would add that in the case that we made for the stormwater compliance, we did show that the added impervious area, especially near 260 Grimes Lane, 260 Foster Street, near the intersection of Foster Street and Grimes Lane, the added impervious was negligible to the runoff that's is running off to the we're over here on Grimes Lane, the design point, which is an existing culvert on Grimes Lane, and the leaching catch basins actually did not play a significant role, or really any role, in the peak flows. They were really just for a little bit of extra infiltration. So it really doesn't change the impact of the the high flow events that we previously modeled. And so we're asking that the unfortunate deletion of the from 5 leaching catch basins to 1 be considered minor in light of the overall impacts of the project. And so we're just here to find out if that can be considered an amended order or something else.
The area that the new area that you've chosen, can you show us where the resource area is to that?
Yes. So
Balsam?
Yes. So this is actually outside of the 100-foot buffer. This is a 100-foot buffer limit to the wetland that's essentially at the intersection of Foster Street and Grimes Lane. So we're about 150 feet east of that buffer.
Can you talk a little bit about the access for your mechanical removal? Are we staying on the street with your equipment, or how are they going to extract it?
Yes, so all of the work would be within on the upland side of the limits of work. And my understanding is that the mechanical extraction is actually going to be done by a crew with hand tools.
That's your understanding, or is that what you're proposing to us?
Well, that's what we're proposing, and we can certainly detail that when we if we submit an amended order. Although I believe it is more or less spelled out in the plan that SWCA submitted. They wouldn't be allowed to work in the wetland, obviously, and then outside of our defined project limits, we wouldn't generally permit that.
So I know we had quite a bit of discussion when we did our last site walk there for some of the sensitive areas. That's why I asked how they were going to access that for removal, especially with the high water level at the moment. Commissioners, questions? Tim, do you want to reiterate what is on the table for us?
Yep, so we're here. Aaron's looking for whether or not this can be approved as a minor modification, or if you guys would like to see this as an amendment to the existing order.
And for the new commissioners, can you define the difference between the two?
Minor modification it can just be done essentially administratively, and amended. Aaron would have to come back in front of us with and get another, vote for, an amended order of conditions.
So we're removing 5 structures and we're adding a new structure. Correct?
Yes.
Wait, so the one that you can install wasn't on the original plans?
Right. So we had to look for additional areas where the groundwater was deep enough to kind of, yeah.
Right.
And
So it's a
is
new
that
area.
outside of is that outside of the 100-foot buffer?
It's
It is,
still
yes.
But it still attributes to.
Okay.
I think it would be a stretch to be a modification. Minor mod.
What's the consequence of not having the other structures?
Well, it means that we weren't able to provide the kind of extra groundwater recharge that we were hoping. And so it turns out that the maximum extent practical wasn't quite what we thought it was.
But not being able to replenish the groundwater the way you were hoping has an impact on that area, doesn't it? Or was this just a nice to have?
Well, I
It
think
was more of a nice to have. I mean, we, as a limited project, redevelopment project, we were trying to do as much recharge as we could. On a project like this, we're not a linear project with, within the town road layout. We don't have enough space to do a formal retention basin or forebay that would, allow a lot more infiltration. So it was just kind of a small thing that we thought we could do, but it turns out in many areas it wasn't feasible.
and that could be a future discussion, but not under minor modification.
Yeah, I don't think this is for me, a minor, taking 5 extension basins out and only putting 1 back.
Other commissioners have thoughts, comments, questions?
I would agree. I think that's more under the amended order category for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would just the treatment of the invasives. I think that's more of the concern I have.
For sure.
I again, those leaching basins would have been nice, but I'm more worried. I would want to see the use of herbicides and whatever captured in an amended order.
And it's only monitored for 1 year if they get the 83 or 85%. Okay. Tim, do you want to vote for this or just an acknowledgement?
I think an acknowledgement is probably fine.
Okay. Commissioners?
But does how does one do an acknowledgement?
I think we just all have to be happy with not accepting this as a minor modification. I, for one, do not consider it a minor modification.
Nor do I.
Agreed.
It's so acknowledged.
Yeah, sounds like there's a consensus.
Okay. Aaron, may not be what you wanted to hear, but we appreciate you coming in front of us.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. And we'll take the steps to do the public notice and submit a formal request for amendment.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Chase would usually do the 8:20. He's not here, so I don't know. So we'll go back to administrative discussions. Assistant conservation agent updates, still work in progress. We're trying to hopefully keep the process going.
We've got Parks and Rec here. Do we want to kind of switch things around and get their agenda items, move them up a little bit so they can get out of here?
Oh, we have one ahead of them. So
I gotcha.
The assistant conservation agent, we can have hopefully more updates at the next meeting. The next discussion after that is conservation parcel U17-208-0.
Just real quick, Sarah, did the person that the offer was made, did they reject the offer?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. I should have clarified that. Okay. Conservation parcel U17-208-0. Tim?
So this is the parcel that we talked about the last meeting. That Parks and Rec proposed the idea of putting the storage rack there. I think where we ended at the last meeting was commissioners were going to take a drive by the area, and we were going to rediscuss at this meeting.
Okay. Commissioners, do we feel that everyone's had an opportunity to do that, or do we want to move it to the next meeting with a reminder?
I haven't had an opportunity to go by yet.
Well, I didn't either.
Okay.
And I'd move it to the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next, Park and Rec, Long Lake dock storage.
Yeah, so I'd asked Tim to include this on our agenda for tonight, just because, and Tim, other Tim, are you in the audience?
Hey Andrew, how are you?
Hey, good, how you doing?
Good. Alicia popped by too. We just finished up the Park and Rec meeting, and we were just notified by Saul that this was on here, so that's why we hopped up here.
Oh, perfect. Hey, Alicia.
Hello.
So yeah, I just wanted to put this on as like a preliminary thing for tonight. As many of you are probably aware, Park and Rec will be on the warrant for the Springtown meeting for additional docks at Long Lake. And it has been pointed out to me that previously an order of conditions for the previous docks basically entailed that the docks couldn't be stored within the buffer zone previously. And in recent years, they've been kind of right by the boat launch. So I was just thinking we could get ahead of the game this time around and kind of come up with a plan to maybe put them somewhere else after the upcoming season's over.
I think it was a 50-foot buffer, right, Andrew? Not the 100.
Yeah.
So Andrew, are you saying that Park and Rec is going to come back later with a proposed plan? Or are you thinking we come up with a proposed plan?
So Alicia and Tim, I'm not 100% certain what other options would be at this time. Did you want to kind of think about different areas and maybe come back to us, and we can kind of work with you to come up with a plan to kind of store them?
About the meeting, so we don't have anything prepared. We were just here to answer questions if they came up.
Yeah, we were just trying to figure out what we saw it as an agenda item, and we were asked by one of the commissioners what it was for. So yeah, we really didn't have any idea about it being on the agenda, and happy to answer questions. When we had originally done the dock, we had discussed storage. I don't necessarily know that there was any defined place that we were going to store them. I know we had originally spoken about putting it onto the boat ramp. Recently, I know that the question has been raised by residents as far as where the docks are stored and what we did, but this is our, I believe, 5th or 6th season of them being along that railing that's adjacent to the boat ramp. The reasons that was kind of where they have been living is there's still access to the actual physical boat ramp where they are put off to the side, where people can launch boats and canoes and kayaks while the boat ramp is still open. Moving them any closer towards the entrance makes it difficult for trailer access sometimes, specifically with what we have there. And the previous tenant, the house has been handed down since then, had asked they not be stacked at the top of the boat ramp just for viewing for viewing purposes from that property. So that was kind of where that lived. As far as the other idea that had been looked at that's a little bit difficult is putting them up towards where the bathhouse is. A couple things with how we stack them up there. Number one is it's kind of difficult to get the loader up there that Highway uses in order to forklift them out of the lake. And then the other piece is that we don't know what the actual weight that we can put onto the tight tank. The tight tank sits under that P-stone. So it's really unclear what that's capable of, holding. The only other discussion that's been had in the past is putting him in the parking lot, which there's only 23 spots in that, and, there is significant use of that in the off-season, i.e. into September and October by residents, non-residents still utilizing the property after we close for the season. And then the only other place that was discussed in the initial concept was the conservation parcel over that you guys had that we had mentioned that we might be able to use for public storage in order to raise money for Clean Lakes, which was the topic that we had suggested that was just previously up. So short of, buying a flatbed trailer and figuring out a place for the town to store these things, and moving them, we have talked, like, is there room at Light and Water? Is there room at Highway? And those are all hard no's from, those particular individuals. So really, I don't know where we put them on the property without just putting them in the middle of the boat ramp and shutting the boat ramp down a little earlier once we pull the docks. And, that's really the only other place that it exists. I mean, we could move them back, which is fine. But they will, if we move them back, we would probably need to double stack them a little more, which might make it harder to get boats in there. I mean, obviously, we can always find a solution for stuff. It's just a matter of one of the things that we've tried to do better is pack that property up better. That was feedback that we got for numerous years of how the property looks when it's put away. And that is kind of one of the cleanest and safest ways to kind of put them over there, just kind of out of the way.
That one spot you talked about where you said that you didn't know if it could take the weight, maybe there's the opportunity to put a steel platform, if you will, that allows you to use that space without it's actually sitting on the tank,
Yeah, it's just a matter of moving that platform to be utilized. We use that space for sailing, and the boats are stored. All the sailboats are currently stored there as well.
No solution is great.
Right.
Well, thank you for jumping in with no notice, just because of what this discussion. So, if you all could kind of put your thinking caps on and do a recap of what you've just given us, which was very thorough, thank you. And then commissioners will do drive-bys, kind of walk around. Let's go ahead and post this as a formal hearing, so that way we can bring others in if they have other suggestions, if that's okay with you all.
Yeah, we're here
That
to
sounds
help.
great.
Whatever everybody wants, to make it
And
work.
Tim and Alicia,
Go ahead, Andrew.
perfect. Sorry, and Tim and Alicia, thank you for coming tonight. This was actually just supposed to be like a very scratch of the surface type thing with the board tonight. So having you here, thank you so much for being here and for answering our questions, and we'll figure something out moving forward.
So can I just ask one quick question?
Of course.
So ultimately, in trying to come up with a solution and, without having to figure too many things out, I mean, just doing calculations and measurements and how high and wide things need to be, is the objective just to get them outside the 50-foot buffer? Because, I mean, I feel like we're kind of close to that right now. So just want to have clarification on that.
Yeah, so I would imagine, and I can't speak for the commission, but we would want to be in compliance with the order of conditions that was issued.
Okay. And that was issued when we originally purchased it, or where did that, because I don't know if I actually have an order of conditions anywhere.
Tim, do you happen to know when that was issued? I'm trying to.
Yeah, it was when you guys came in most recently for the permitting of the docks, and then the pathway. It's in the pathway that runs from, was it Lakeshore to?
So the notice on those docks was the one that we were building for you guys off of Lakeshore. So that was why I was asking, because these are prior to that. That had nothing to do with the notice of intent for that project.
My understanding was that also encompassed in that was the permitting of the existing dock as well, as part of the initiative to get everybody to get their docks permitted.
That's fine. I'll touch base with Tim and we'll get everything figured out, but absolutely we can figure it out.
Yeah, I could take it back. I could take a look back in the order and meet with you and run through.
Yeah, because we were just talking about the new process on the DEP website anyway, so we'll get it all figured out. No worries.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Yep. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, Alicia.
Okay, carrying on discussions, Long Lake Frog Pond walkway improvements, CPC application status.
Yeah, so at the last CPC meeting, the project was approved, so it'll be officially on the warrant for Springtown meeting. Woo!
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okie dokie, let's see. Tim, you want to bring us up to speed on minutes and who gets that glorious job?
Are you talking about this next item, the draft minutes submittal?
Yep.
Yeah, so that was actually, Michael, I don't know if you want to talk to that. Me and Michael met, it was either last week or the week before, about discussing if there was a better way to have you guys review the minutes. So instead of everybody coming with their edits, and a lot of you probably have the same edits, right? If it's more efficient to upload it as like a working document where all the commissioners can make their edits, and then by the time of the meeting, you guys have, so there's essentially a list of edits on the working document that can be approved.
So I think that would potentially be a violation of the open meeting law, though.
Okay.
We're technically not conspiring, but we're technically inputting on something outside of an open meeting.
Right. I don't know of any other, I think it would be great. It would streamline things, but I can't think of any other committees that I've been on that is allowed to do that. But Andrew, I think it's a great suggestion. Do you want to just confirm that we're not allowed to do that?
I can certainly confirm tomorrow. In my mind, it would be the equivalent of us emailing back and forth and saying, "Hey, let's change this, let's change that." It's just a form of, another form of communication as a quorum.
Right. Okay.
So a Google Sheet wouldn't be allowed then? Private Google Sheet for doing that is what you're saying?
I wouldn't
Be
imagine.
doing a reply all to everyone.
Well, that's unfortunate.
What if it was visible to anyone who cared to look at it, but edits or proposals would be limited to our group?
I don't think drafts, I wouldn't want drafts.
Yeah, unfortunately, anytime that more than,
Sounds like a catch-22.
Yes. Anytime 4 or more members are actively communicating about subject matter other than scheduling a meeting outside of a posted meeting, it would be a violation.
Okay.
So even if we just had a list of instead of actually updating the document, how we go through it, does anyone have any updates? If there was just a file where they put their updates, or is that the same thing?
It would be a slippery slope, in my opinion, just because you're actively, like I said, editing and then looking at that person's edits, kind of almost responding in a way.
All right. Well, if you just have a chance, just confirm. It doesn't sound like it would be doable, but that would be good to do that.
Absolutely.
And then also, Tim, do you want to talk about minutes as well? That someone's helping you, or?
Oh yeah, minutes weren't ready for this meeting. Megan, our office admin, was taking a stab at them, and we weren't able to get them done for this meeting. But
going forward, will she be able to help you with some of the upcoming meetings as well?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Hopefully, she'll be able to help out with that going forward and to help alleviate some of the workload that I have.
For sure. So just to make note that the next meeting is April 22nd, and I think you're aware that we can stay on Zoom. So, Tim, it's my understanding that we would not do hybrid, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Unless you guys really wanted to.
So April 22nd and then May 13th are the next hearings. Anyone have anything else they'd like to comment on? If not, if I can have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Andrew?
Did we have a second? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yep, Carl did. Yep.
Oh, Carl, perfect. Roll call vote. Ed,
Ed Foltz, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxwell, aye.
and myself, I. It's unanimous. We're adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Aye.
Night, everyone.
Bye.